Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm En Fuego here, and I welcome you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, for another FRESCA FUEGO review. And it's kind of become slim pickings in a lot of ways as far as like new releases and obviously nothing in theaters. It's been a weird last few months of attempting to do this sort of coverage. It's been lots of retro Fuego stuff and, you know, animated films, music stuff, Star Wars stuff, but nonetheless, I'm here to talk about a new film entitled The Quarry, which stars Wiggum, and also Michael Shannon. And Michael Shannon is what obviously got me in the door for this particular film. Him and Sam Rockwell are pretty much my two favorite current working actors, where anything that either of those guys are in, even if it's, you know, direct to video, as pretty much everything is going at this particular point, yeah, I will definitely check out anything that either of those awesome actors find themselves in the midst of, both being American actors too, because most of the best thespians I find lately are either Australian or they're from the UK or whatever it may be. So yes, it's very refreshing to see solid acting from our side of the pond. But yeah, so The Quarry is an interesting, like, psychological thriller, I guess is the best way that I can describe it. One thing that did bum me out is the fact that pretty much the entirety of the film was given away in the trailer, which is a big time bummer. But yeah, this just hit Redbox and VOD a little over a week ago as you guys are seeing this review. And yeah, Shannon got me in the door, but Shay's performance, I've seen this guy in tons of things. I know he was previously in Take Shelter with Shannon, and he was on Boardwalk Empire, Pride and Glory. I mean, dude's been in so much stuff. He's originally a Tallahassee, Florida actor, and he's been around for decades at this particular point. I think he's in his 50s now, but he definitely has this caged, tortured performance that he puts together in this film as a convict on the run who is picked up by this, you know, Hispanic pastor who's coming from Ohio. And this pastor is drinking wine the entire time as they're driving in this van. He finds Shay's character literally on the side of the road, like looking dead to rights, and yet picks him up and he's just like, what are you running from? What's going on? He feeds him. He basically, you know, just like that parable that Jesus talked about, you know, you find somebody, you know, on the side of the road, and the person who actually, you know, I know the, you know, Pharisee and so on, they pass by, but this guy did his due diligence as a Christian to pick up Shay's character and try to help him. And unfortunately, that old saying about no good deed goes unpunished, and yes, this is in the trailer, so you know what's happening. You know that he kills this guy who tried to show him some love and respect and help him. He kills this guy, you know, in a brief fit of rage, buries his body, and then proceeds to assume his identity. You know, he's got a last name Martin, but it's actually Martin, so but he's able to get past it as he goes and assumes this guy's identity in this very small town in West Texas where they were waiting on this new pastor, and that's what Shay's character intends to do. Michael Shannon, on the other hand, is the town sheriff. His father was the sheriff and respected for many years, and yet he is disillusioned with the role. He's like, my dad was respected. Like, everybody was happy to see him when he, you know, they you know, gave him nods and, you know, respect and all this other stuff. But unfortunately, Shannon's character is very he's lost on the role, and he just understands the fact that law enforcement, especially now, as we know, does not get respect like it used to, and that's because of the fact that there is so much corruption in law enforcement. And yeah, it's a real thing, but as I constantly contend on this channel, especially with a mother who worked, you know, with, you know, Phoenix PD here for over 30 years, not every person who's in that sort of game is a bad person, and that's one admirable thing about Shannon's portrayal on this. He's stern. He's, you know, upset about certain things, and he's kind of an asshole at times, but you can tell that he is a good person at his core, which is something that is even doubled down by the Mexican woman who is an immigrant who came up when she was, you know, in her teens with family and stuff, with her uncle, if I remember correctly. They have a relationship going on, and she contends constantly, especially to her cousin and I guess her nephew, who were also living in the same town, that yeah, he's got some edges that are a little rough, man, but bottom line, he's a good person at his core, and that's something that, it comes out, but he's still very suspicious of this new, reverend pastor, whatever you want to say, from the start. And he's even saying, as you see in the trailer, he's like, don't I know you from somewhere? He's like, I think I've seen you. And that's because he is on the run for arson and homicide, and that's what is essentially going down. But the interesting thing about Shea's performance is the fact that he's so just introverted initially, doesn't smile, doesn't talk a lot, but assuming this role as this pastor, he does in fact come out of his shell a little bit. And even though he's winging it initially, he does find an essence of conviction and guilt, obviously, especially where the guilt from something that he has done is passed along to somebody else. Somebody else is blamed and accused of a particular crime, and just that guilt eating away at you, it leads to a, dare I say, not an unexpected conclusion, but fulfilling in some ways, because you just sort of knew it was coming. So I can't really speak too much more about this film without spoiling stuff that was already spoiled in the trailer, for God's sake. But yeah, it's slow moving. It's definitely not a terrific film by any regard, but great performances, and despite the predictability of some of the plotting, I enjoyed this movie. I genuinely did. It's not best of the year or anything like that, but with the amount of shite that I watch all too often, I was really happy to have that breath of fresh air of something that, the Quarry, the title is basically referring to where the body is buried that Shea's character kills at the very beginning of this film. And so, yeah, man, it's still, there's character complexity. That's something that I can at least give this film major prop points for, is the fact that, these weren't just thin, undeveloped, boring people. That, like, every character, our three leads specifically, Shea's character, Shannon's character, and then the love interest, who is also, like, Shea's pastor is her house guest. He is living with her as he is getting this church up and running. And also the fact that he, despite his nefarious intentions initially, makes a positive impact on the congregation of people in this film. And so for that reason, despite what happens in the third act, there is a redemption arc to a degree that it's not inspiring or anything, but it's at least compelling, and that sort of atonement I find, intriguing as far as storytelling goes. So at the end of the day, this is only a 3 out of 5, but that is still a bueno ranking in my regard, and I extend a grande gracias for anybody who tuned in briefly. This is actually worth your 100 minutes. I definitely contend that. Not best of the year or anything, but as we just wring our streaming services dry in the midst of all of this, The Quarry was actually not necessarily a good time, but still a compelling one. And so 3 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. So I've been, as per the name, Jaime En Fuego. You can find Walt on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and yes, here on this channel, it's typically either geeking out on stuff like Star Wars, or it's going more indie, as you see with things like this, or the recent Shirley review, lots of Oscar coverage back when that was still a thing. Who knows when the movie industry is going to adequately just rebound, but hey, it is what it is in that particular regard. If you like scary stuff, and for whatever reason you're here and don't know about my bigger channel, this is my little spin-off where I have barely a Jeezy, but we have over 33,000 subscribers for a reason on youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. And that's where, trailer reactions, unboxings, video game Let's Plays. I have my weekly show called Hail to Stephen King, as well as reviews of anything under the scarific sun, from, films to television to comics. We are all over the place, and it is a ton of fun bringing that sort of content to you. So I've been Fuego, y'all have been Rad Status, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you for your time here today, and I'm hopeful we share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, stay home, watch more movies, and anything Shannon, man. Dude's awesome.